Now we've come to the last crux of the issue in this 3-part miniseries. But these 3 aren't the only one, just the universal ones across all demographics. Things are easier or more difficult for different demographics, but the core issues remain the same. If you haven't seen the pilot, part 1 or part 2, I highly recommend doing so. I'm going to be making some references back to them, and if you haven't seen them, my explanations may seem strange or out of context. So why are people overweight if they're in a food desert? Well, the easiest answer is food swamps.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, I know. We're doing a piece on food deserts, and I'm just adding another biome. Put it simply, food swamps is an area that's located within a food desert where the available food is almost always from corner stores, gas stations, fast food, which is almost always processed snacks or fried food instead of fresh produce, lean fish or meat, or whole grains. The items they offer are usually cheap, grab and go, and are high in saturated fat, sugars, and sodium. Those things aren't bad in normal quantities, but in high quantities lead to major issues down the line. Now, if you've ever been poor, you'll understand what I mean when I say caloric awareness, meaning your ability to walk into a store and pick out items that will make you feel full, that have high calories. When you have limited funds and you need to stretch them, you don't reach for a bundle of apples. You grab the Little Debbie Swiss cake rolls. A medium-sized apple gives you roughly 95 calories at roughly 65 cents per piece. Not to mention, it has a 5-day to 4-week shelf life depending on how it's stored. Comparatively, Swiss cake rolls have around 140 calories at 30 cents per piece, with a shelf life of about 2 to 4 months sealed. Now, obviously, the apple is the healthier option, but when you have to worry about a short shelf life, possible fruit flies, or bruising, it really puts things into perspective. You can crush and mix up a Swiss cake roll in its packaging, and it's still edible. If you want to see the true side-by-side, per 100 nutrition-labeled calories, processed foods cost as little as 10 cents to 20 cents, whereas fresh produce averages between 50 cents to $1. That's between a 2 times to 10 times price difference. Keep in mind that low-income and low-access areas are associated with higher levels of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and different cancers. A cardiology study found a 44% increased risk of heart disease with people in food deserts due to obesity and poor diet. So if junk food is bad, why does SNAP cover junk food? Can you guess? Can you guess which president screwed over generations of people from different demographics? Also that corporate America could profit off of the least among us? I'll give you a hint. It ain't Trump, but this president has been a running theme in videos I've put out. That's right, Republican Jesus himself, Ronald Screw the Poor Reagan. In the 1981 Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, this death merchant slashed heavily the food stamps program in all facets, outreach, eligibility, benefit levels, all for that magical death sentence word Republicans love to use to exacerbate the debt and deficit anyway, efficiency. So what happened? Instead of working through the USDA with fresh produce initiatives, Reagan opted to privatize SNAP by making it so that you could go through retailers. And what did those retailers do with Reagan? Made those calorie-dense processed foods all eligible under SNAP. Reagan killed 2 birds with 1 stone. People wanting fresh produce at affordable subsidized prices, and farmers wanting to sell produce domestically. Now get this, remember when I said retailers don't want employees to be full-time because they have to pay more money? Here is an even sicker part. So let's say John works for Walmart instead of McDonald's. Walmart pays around $12 an hour for new employees. That's about $21,000 a year after taxes, provided that he pushed to pick up and get 40 hours a week. John qualifies for SNAP. So where do you think John is spending his SNAP benefits? Do you think if John were making more money an hour or more hours, he would spend his money in a different grocery store? I don't think so. Walmart uses the government to subsidize John's food, so Walmart doesn't have to pay John more. And they get the SNAP money on the back end. And with John shopping there anyway with his employee discount, Walmart opts to bleed John and the taxpayers to save a few pennies.
What? I see this as an absolute win.
And what do we call this, everyone? Fiduciary responsibility. Reagan put this in by design. Subminimum wage, teenager wage, retail SNAP benefits. It's all been constructed to keep you poor, unhealthy, all while buying retail prices. Can you also guess the president that made cuts to the Department of Education, leading to elective classes like home economics being cut from K through 12? Yeah, rest in piss, Reagan. This entire circle jerk was constructed in a way to funnel public funds directly to corporations. And then when people buy things using those eligible products, the Republican Party gets to yell and scream about people abusing the system that they created. Then turn around and blame Democrats for status quoing the amount of money people get. This is the equivalent of purposely removing 2 of the 6 spark plug connectors on a ride share to save on gas consumption. Then they remove things like ABS, power steering, shock absorbers, and requiring you to only drive in first through third gear on a 5-speed to again save on gas. Then they complain about how we're still wasting gas and how it handles horribly and how it can't drive 70 on the interstate. Their solution? It's the car's fault, so we should just scrap it. It's not the car that's the problem. It's that single member of the ride share. Why don't people just cook at home? Remember when I talked about split schedules and complete availability? Rachel and John have even more limited time to cook nutritious meals before or even after work. I am lucky enough to work 9 to 5. I have 2 kids, and I cook on the regular. If it is spaghetti night and I'm making red sauce from scratch, because it's healthy, it can take me up to an hour from the point I start until it's sitting on the table ready to eat. And I cook pretty well for most adults. For someone trying to do this without the same level of experience, it takes much longer. Now, let's say you have minimal cooking skills and a limited income. How many meals can you afford to screw up? Because you will, before you are stretched too thin. How much money can you invest up front for all the necessary ingredients, spices, and garnishes to make your food taste good? Do you have all the necessary equipment like a colander, pots and pans, knife and cutting board, all of which cost money too? Also, I'm dead ass tired when I come home from 8 hours of work and I get my kids. I'm lucky I live less than a mile from work and drive. I can't imagine driving an hour to work or catching a bus that takes an hour to get to work, then working for 8 hours, then getting kids, then coming home with the same commute, and then spending another hour making dinner, hoping I don't screw it up because my kids are hungry. I understand why people don't or can't always choose the healthiest options. For Rachel, South Memphis is not the safest neighborhood. Things like fewer parks, fewer street lights, fewer sidewalks discourage outdoor exercise. And with the available food options, snacking is increased. For John, Lebanon offers very little, not to mention Kansas wind, heat, and wildlife, including the mites that live in the tall grass, limit outdoor exercise. Snacking is also an issue. Studies have shown that people living in an area overloaded with quick-serve restaurants correlates with lower physical activity and higher snacking rates. Also, things like chronic stress from financial insecurity and long commutes increase cortisol levels. Cortisol promotes fat storage and that can trigger stress eating patterns. Add in things like medical issues, mental issues, and more, things really start to come into perspective. So when Kroger says Kroger will be closing more than 60 stores it considers underperforming across the United States by the end of 2026, according to a recent announcement by the grocery chain, what they mean is Kroger is going to exacerbate the food desert issue in the U.S. by closing 60 locations in poorer areas around the country. When Kroger says the news was a part of Kroger's first quarter earnings report, which was released on Friday, it states that the closures are expected to provide the company with a modest financial benefit. What they mean is morality played no role in our decision-making process. We didn't talk to anyone about the impacts and could care less as long as we can get that extra 0.75% savings to pass on to our shareholders. When Kroger says Kroger aims to reinvest the money it saves through the closings into improving its customers' experiences at other stores, what they mean is we fired employees, killed lifelines, and destroyed communities, also that rich people could shop in peace without all the riffraff. Shame on you, Kroger, and shame on anyone who says things like, why don't you just move? Nobody wants to work anymore. Or why are there fat people if there's no food, as a talking point without trying to understand why. Shame on our federal, state, and local governments too, for not stepping up to help fix these issues. It's easy to ignore, dismiss, or downplay a problem when it doesn't affect you. The poor, the marginalized, and the desperate tend to have their voices stifled over even basic needs. We should listen to those that are in need, because remember, to see what is right and do nothing is cowardice. Hi there, this is Desperado Sensei with FOFA News. We just like to remind you to like and subscribe for our content, and also follow us on Substack. Every now and then we write pieces that don't necessarily turn out to be videos, so check us out when you get a chance. Thank you. Bye.